Welcome, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're from. Thank you for being here with us today. As we wait for folks to filter in from the waiting room, we invite you to get comfortable, whether that's getting coffee, tea, or water. We'll be here together for approximately the next hour or so. My name is Kai Jarda, and I will be moderating this webinar. You've reached the Imperial College Executive Education Business School Pre-Enrollment Webinar, the Venture Capital Master Startup Funding course. All right. I see we filtered in quite a few, and we're going to continue and push forward. As we come together globally here, as we meet in the global space, the internet space, we welcome you virtually to Imperial College Business School. As you know, this is an asynchronous class. We'll be doing online classes as well as work on the back end behind there. And we welcome you to the Imperial College community and welcome you to campus if you can make it. We've had that happen in the past as well. Now, though we are on a live webinar, those who may have used Zoom, you may notice you cannot use or turn on your camera or turn on your sound. However, we do welcome you and encourage you to engage with us. And we come up with two ways to do that. The first being the chat box. The chat box we have here is to share your ideas and thoughts and resonances as we go through the program course and what you'll be learning. We welcome you to share your thoughts and ideas. And the second way to communicate with us is the Q&A box. You'll see both of those functions in your Zoom toolbar here, either at the bottom of your screen or the top. If you scroll your mouse up or down, you'll be able to see that pop up. The chat box, I'll say hi. It's a great way to connect with your peers. They'll be doing that throughout the course as well. I'll write a message to the chat here to show you how it works. Be sure that you click the drop-down box and click everyone. I'm going to send out through, hi, my name is Kai, and I'm coming from Cambridge, Massachusetts in the USA, it's in the Northeast. So we welcome you to share where you come from. And again, as you're working asynchronously, you'll work on your own at your own pace. But when you're in class, there are live sessions that look just like this, except you'll have more autonomy and be able to turn on your microphone, ask those questions out loud. We will be having a Q&A at the end of the session. So with those Q&As, you can put your questions in the box. Perhaps you came to the session with a question already in mind. Feel free to put that in the Q&A box as early as right now. And as we go through the module, we don't want you to forget what you're thinking about. So please feel free to pop your questions into the Q&A box as we move along through the course and presentation. All right, hello, Henry from London. Good to see you. Thank you for being here today. All right, and we'll push forward. And so here's an overview of our agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about the college, the faculty, what you'll be learning, the program certificate, and then we'll have our live Q&A with our keynote speaker, who I'll be introducing in just a moment. Okay, so for those of you who are here for the first time, this is a little bit about Imperial College. I'm not going to read it all out, but if you look to the right, you'll see one down the line here, number one across the board. This is a college that you can ensure that what you're learning from are from thought leaders in the field who are making marks and globally recognized for their talents. Our thought leadership is sought out by government, policymakers, and global business leaders. So we're talking about venture capitalism. You're going to be in a great position to be learning from not only the best, but also be learning with your peers who are coming from all over the world to come to Imperial College Business School. You'll have a very unique opportunity to have your hand on the pulse of what's going on globally because of the networking that you'll be making with all the other peers who are coming to Imperial College Business School because of their brilliant minds and the environment that we're providing you, that you'll be able to foster your work and implement it into your everyday business. Here's a slide of our comprehensive guide to navigating the VC ecosystem. It's a 7-week program where you're going to really be able to immerse yourself in venture capital and learn how to build and bring these techniques to your organization. Okay. And as we thought about building this course, we thought about who this program is for. So I see some folks are sharing where they're coming from in the chat. Now the time where we invite you to tell us, where do you fall in this category? When we thought about this program, we were thinking of venture capital professionals, finance professionals, entrepreneurs, founders, and senior management. So where do you fall on this bucket list? And what industry do you represent today? So share a little bit about that, what you're hoping to gain, perhaps where you are in your venture capital journey. Share as much as you like in the chat. And I see that folks are already using the Q&A box as well, so feel free to put questions there. Okay. So with us today, we have Professor Mark Kitten, who is a partner and co-founder of Candescent, who's a visiting professor in France at the Imperial College Business School, who's here to talk with you about the program and who you'll be learning from, what you'll be learning. And I'll be back on a pop in a bit to talk about how you'll be learning it. Professor Kitten, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day to be with us today. It's always a pleasure, and we look forward to hearing from you. So over to you,
hello everyone.
Professor.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's always a pleasure to meet people who come from all over the world. Previous sessions, the previous session in this particular course or in my other course have brought people from really all the continents, and that has enriched the discussions. My background, as you can see, is mixed. I have been involved with venture capital for over 20, 25 years now. But in various ways, I have been advising a number of investors, first at McKinsey and then at Candescent, the consultancy that I co-founded 20 years ago. And I'm still doing that on a regular basis. Although the core of my business is a bit more mature with private equity, I have a number of venture capital funds as customers. I am also an investor myself and have been for many years, so more angel. We will discuss that in class. I also write case studies on the topic, and I've been teaching in areas of private capital for, 20 years, I'm afraid. So it's a pleasure to share that. I use my own case studies whenever I can, both for the preparations that you do between sessions, but also as examples during the video sessions, the recorded ones. And we will see a few examples of the cases that provide. So I try to have half of the cases that I have developed myself, because often they are situations where I have worked personally on. So back to you, Case. I think we will go through the description of the course in a few minutes. I've invited a couple of people with experience into venture capital to share it with you. So Russell, Ethan, and a few others who are not listed here, including fund manager at Top Funds. Each have a different experience, and we'll be sharing that with you in pre-recorded videos that have been made specifically for this course. I've interviewed them. I think we can move to the next page if it is for me. And Case, perhaps you want to talk about the takeaways?
I think I'll hand that over to you, Professor K, and I'll come back and talk about the learning experience as far as how they'll learn it. I think you're the best person in the room to talk about what they'll be learning.
All right, so let's, no problem. Not that I don't want to speak, but so what do we want to achieve here? Well, to make you familiar, or at least more familiar, with the entire process of venture capital, so all the deal-making process. But you could be an investor, or you could be looking for an investment. So we try to mix those two sides, the buy side and the sell side. And for that, we introduce you to the concepts. We take you through the process. We explain the roles and the nature of all the players in that particular ecosystem. And we finish with a pitch deck that you are guys going to develop that would allow you to either raise money for your own business at one point, or understand how those who come to raise money from you are putting their ideas together. So if we can move to the next page. So the program is organized over 7 weeks, which is relatively short. The first week is an orientation week where you will be made familiar with all the logistics. And then after that, we move to a first module which is going to go through the entire landscape. So here we will mix an historical perspective with a review of different stages of financing, and we will link that to areas where perhaps some of you like me are active, which is angel investing. Moving to the next week, module 2, we will start analyzing or reviewing the full process of venture capital or financing. And that starts with setting up a fund. Actually, before that, there is an investment strategy that needs to be designed. But once it is done, we need to set up the fund. And that fund needs to have already identified some opportunities. So we'll discuss this preparation. And that will take us naturally to module 3, where once we have identified investment opportunity, we'll discuss the funnel of those investment possibilities. Once we have identified those that we want to concentrate on, how do we perform the valuation as part of the process? So this course is a bit different from many other similar courses in the sense that it tries to look at every type of valuation. So we will review 5, 6, 7 different approaches that we do not have the intention of making you participants the experts, because that requires years of practice, but at least to give you an introduction to all those, so you know that they exist, what they are for, and you will be able to, well, either develop yourself those skills over time, or at least monitor the nature and the quality of the work done by other people working with you, for you, or on the other side. We will dig into that also in bringing some very interesting, basic, but very interesting approaches to sizing the market, to analyzing what an adoption curve could be for a new consumer product, etc. So again, a number of little tools that together makes it very powerful to value a business. So if we move to the next page, after the valuation, we continue into the process of venture capital investment, and we discuss in particular the term sheets. This is a very, very important topic in venture capital. So as part of the structure of the deal, as the most important document around which the negotiation takes place, we will discuss how the valuation, the liquidation preference, and the volumes and amounts of money raised will be included in that term sheet, and how the different parties are going to negotiate around that. So very interesting, can be quite detailed and sometimes even complex. In the next module, we look at the next stage. So what happens once we have invested into companies? We need to develop them, okay? We need to help develop them. Now, we do that to an extent, because in venture capital, typically, we are a minority investor. We cannot impose our views on the founders most of the time, but we can influence, we can help. And we'll see how that happens. And a lot of the help we can provide, something that I do in the startup that I advise, is helping them put in place the right governance. So what sort of board of directors, of non-exec directors do we need to have in place? Which sort of skills are going to be helpful for a startup? And a number of other tips like that, that may help you in a very specific situation. So we will take that module 5 into reviewing the exit strategies. There are several. We can sell to a strategic investor, to a financial investor. We can IPO or SPAC in the market. So we look at the pros and cons of all these exit opportunities. And we will then move to the last module, which is a review of the outlook for the market. Now, we will do two things at once. We will also look at what it means for developing markets, developing and emerging markets, where venture capital obviously operates in a very, very different way. So we will look at what makes it specific in the environment of an emerging or developing market, what limits, but still does not forbid to practice venture capital. that can be of interest. We have regularly lots of participants who come from Latin America, Africa, or some parts of Asia that are still in strong development and are particularly interested in those views. But our view will be more holistic, because what we see is how things evolve also in the more developed markets of North America or Europe, for example, as a proxy of what will happen for other parts of the world. And you will finish your program with a capstone project where you will be developing your own proposal. So we'll share with you some templates that will allow you to play with it. So I think next page, we are going to have a look at some of the case studies that I have selected for this course. So I've tried to mix case studies. First, I've tried to avoid taking the big Amazon or whatever, Tesla, etc., the most well-known situations, because while they are very exciting, we can read a lot about it all the time, everywhere. So I prefer to discuss situations that you may be less familiar with, or maybe not familiar at all. There is more to discover for us there. So it's a patchwork. They are not all there, but the 4 main ones are listed here. And I tried to cover all sorts of sectors. So Rocket Internet will be at the early stage and will cover all sectors, but it's very much e-commerce. Catera is in the construction business. Scrub Daddy is a consumer tool. Sula Vineyards is wine. You could put it in consumer, in an emerging market. So an interesting perspective. And missing here are a couple of other cases, including Dr. Care Anywhere, which is in healthcare, as you would guess, and Snoozy, which is also well-being in healthcare. So as you see, a variety of situations. Now, it's impossible to cover everything in the little time we have together, but at least we have some variety. We are exposed to very different situations. So this time, I think, is for you.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the orientation at the beginning. So again, so the multifaceted portion of our program, we have weekly assignments, the video lectures. We talked a little about the guest speakers. We can talk about more about that. There's interactive activities, knowledge checks. Again, we want you to succeed. So these knowledge checks are here to make sure that you are understanding the material. As Professor Kitson mentioned, it's a very short time and a lot of learning. So a lot's going to be happening. So we want to make sure that we're keeping up with the pace of the rigor. Okay, you'll have access to the program, I believe, for a year after you start the program. Professor Kitson, correct me if I'm wrong. And then you will have associate alumni status of Imperial College Business School. And then you'll receive this program certificate to back up that status there. It's a great way to network even more, announce this on your LinkedIn, post up your certificate, add that to your resume, and really showcase the learning that you have when you are talking to investors, colleagues, and peers as well. Okay, so with that said, we'll come back to the Apply Now screen. For those of you who came to the program and already know that you want to be in the class, you can apply today, right now. I'm going to have my team on the background, Ankit, drop a bit.ly in the chat where you can click on that link and it'll take you to the place, this page that we're on right now. For those of you who are watching this live at home or later, you can, you'll have a PowerPoint slide as well. You'll be able to click on that hyperlink that you see there in the corner once you have access to the slides, and you can sign up from there as well. Okay, if you have any questions, we're going to start our live Q&A right now. For those of you who are at home, and if you have any questions as we are moving through this program, please do not hesitate to reply back to the email that you'll be receiving. Click on the more info now, the Apply Now button. They'll take you to some options to contact us as well. Please, we want to answer your questions for those of you who are at home, and we thank you for watching the webinar. So if you do have any questions at this point, please feel free to send those in. For those of you who are here in the room with us right now, we're going to start our live Q&A with Professor Kitson. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat, and we will go from there. So Professor, before we start, do you get a chance to look through the chat and see where some of our participants are calling and hailing from? And
I have seen that there are a couple of different, very different profiles. It's quite interesting to see that someone wants to move to the execution from the finance side, and someone else wants to launch a fund. That's the kind of profiles that we have had in the previous sessions. So yeah, definitely, I haven't seen anyone who is thinking of selling or financing their business like an entrepreneur, but I'm sure there will be. There were in our previous class that was quite large.
yeah, so for you, the classes that you mentioned, they are quite large. So are you seeing lots of folks who are coming in, who are career switchers, who are coming in from different industries? And how does that bring how does that value add to the class, if you don't mind sharing?
It's a mix, really, between people who are like angels, have had a foot in the industry for a while, and would like to go and formalize a little bit their activities. So, like putting more money together with others, raising funds from other people, and set up ultimately a proper fund. So there's this kind of person quite often. There is also a lot of people who want to switch. So they might be in legal often, or sometimes accounting or finance roles in VC funds or in family offices, and they would like to become a GP. As I said, we also have entrepreneurs who want to understand the VC ecosystem, so they will be better prepared to finance their business. So it's really that mix, and we have had the pleasure to meet actually with a number of the members of the previous class who happened to be in London. Some of them flew to London. We had a dinner in London a few weeks ago, actually, that brought maybe 14, 15 of us. I mean, of course, it's not the full class, which was much, much larger, but not everyone can come easily to London. They plan to have another one. And something I should say is that another particularity of this program is that I invite all the participants, once they graduate from the course, to join a group with the participants who have taken this course with me. And that's a group that is growing over time. So that's a number of like-minded people who share the same course with me at Imperial College, and represent a nice, I mean, a really powerful networking opportunity beyond this dinner in London, which can be reproduced perhaps in other parts of the world. There is the possibility to exchange ideas, to look for co-investors, to get tips, to share investment opportunities, etc. And yeah, they are doing well with that.
Okay, thank you, Professor, and thank you for elaborating on the interaction. We had a question coming in while you're talking that is touching on what you were saying. You talked a little bit about how the class has stayed together and in touch virtually as classmates and peers. Can you talk a little bit about, we have a question from Abby who's asking about the weekly Q&A. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like? The guest speaker sessions, he's asking, are those live? Are we talking? And what is the level of interaction between participants during the live sessions and the live Q&A?
Yes, Abby, we do have quite a lot of interaction. It's not like a MOOC. So yes, you have activities and sessions that are pre-recorded, but on a weekly basis, you have a session with either me or with the tutor. So one of the or the other will be live with you for 1 hour in the case of the tutor. In my case, I've extended it to 1 hour and a half, so we can spend more time discussing the latest developments in the industry. So those live sessions will allow to discuss your work on the case studies, to go through corrections, but also to answer any questions and to discuss the outlook and the latest developments in the industry. The guest speakers are pre-recorded. We could not obviously have guest speakers coming on a regular basis. And that would be, even if they were very generous of their time, that would be very difficult to guarantee. But no, they are pre-recorded, but that's a small part of the entire experience. Another part that is, I mean, indirectly live is that we encourage you to work together. So this work can be done individually because, of course, lots of you are very busy executives who decide to do most of the activities whenever you have time at night or the weekend. That's left to you. But whenever you can, we encourage you to work with someone else or with a small team, often in the same time zone, prepare the case studies, and that adds to the interactions, to the live interactions. And typically, I would say a third to half of the class takes that opportunity. The other half just cannot.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for
I
that.
can see Abby is asking another question. The
Yep.
weekly session, everyone is on camera and mix. Actually, I want it to be very interactive. This is just a presentation of the program, but we would be talking. I would be inviting you to talk and to present your work. So hopefully, half of the time, at least, it is the participants who are talking, not me. Same with the tutor. So you are invited to ask questions. I can see also questions from Henry. No, we cannot restructure the course to adapt to the needs of everyone. However, in the live session with either me or the tutor, it is of course possible to raise a question and discuss a particular situation. But that would be limited to 5 minutes, for example, because there may be many questions.
Thank you so much, Professor. There was a couple of questions that came to the chat. I'll get those over to you. We have someone asking about the access to resources. So they're asking about the guidance on venture capital funding, and are there documents such as checklists, or what kind of materials will they have? I know there's a lot to go through, but maybe if you can give us a little sample of the kind of materials they'll be able to have, as well as I mentioned that they'll have access to the course a year after they take it. So they're also asking that same question, kind of a two-parter. Will they have access to the actual Imperial College of London Business School resources?
So the material is the material that has been specifically developed for the course. So that's obviously the videos that have been recorded, pre-recorded over a year. There is also a slide material that I have developed and that will be shared with the participants, typically, I mean, sometimes before, but most of the time after the video, because there are some discussions. There is also with the videos, they are not 1 hour of videos that you watch like a movie. They are typically more like 5 minutes and leading to a question, to a piece of work, to a reading, to an activity. And then you have another short video. So those activities will include also material like readings, like online tests or activities of your understanding. Okay, so they can take all sorts of forms. We will also run some polls, for example. So it's a variety, it's a diversity of material. I can't think of anything else that could exist, but yes, you will get lots of things to read, to watch, to practice.
Okay, thank you. All right, and I found another question buried hidden in the chat here. I know you talked a little. You did. Someone asked if there's any physical events during and after the program planned for alumni. If you came in, we did speak about that earlier. Folks have gotten together and they've had sort of reunion and had gatherings. Did you want to elaborate some more on that, Professor Kitten, with the live and physical events?
Sorry, I see that there are lots of questions at once that are not in the Q&A, but trying
Yeah,
to go.
I asked you a couple from that list. I'm going down that list as we speak now, so I got it. Don't worry about having to go through all that.
Okay. So there is a specific question that appears twice from Bhargava on Startup Studio. Yes, I find that very, very fascinating. There is the story of Rocket Internet, which was the most famous historical internet studio, still exists, but its moment of glory was a few years ago. And we go through that with a case study. We will discuss that and the relationship with venture capital, definitely. Um, and so the question 3 about interaction sessions, I suppose I have already answered. We invite you to interact between yourselves in preparing the work. You interact with me or the tutor weekly during the live sessions. And you can also interact using the hub to ask questions. We encourage you to ask them to the entire class so everyone can benefit. And we hope that some students, some participants will answer first. Okay, we give you the priority to answer the questions of the other participants. And if they don't, then we step in with the tutor and we answer them. So yes, all sorts of interactions. Again, it's really not like a book.
Okay, can I jump in real quick, Professor? I see a lot of questions coming in through the chat. And I want to ask those, and if you could please copy and paste those and put them into the Q&A, it makes it a lot easier for Professor and I to see them as they get lost in the shuffle in the chat there. And then I should have mentioned earlier, we mentioned that we have support along the way. Our support team is actually in the background here. We have some program advisors who are on the line who can answer a lot of your logistical questions via type text. I see a question here about an alumni. So welcome. We have actually an alumni in the class, in the room right now, asking about special rates and discounts, the financial end. Those questions are great for our program advisors. So if you want to copy and paste any of those financial questions into the Q&A, our team can answer those via type text for you in the background. Okay, and I think, Professor Kane, you saw Dirk's question that you're about to answer.
Yes, it's a good question, Dirk, and welcome back. So Dirk, it's different, right? There are a couple of things that are common, but frankly, I tried to make an estimate, I would say between 5 and 10%. It would be impossible to avoid that because venture capital is initially a subset of private equity. So some of the concepts are obviously shared. But frankly, there's very little. There's something about the concepts in general. And there is, in the valuation part, yes, we will redo a little bit of what we do in private equity. But frankly, the recipes for private equity do not work very well in VC. So we spend 80% of the time looking at what works for VC that is less useful for PE. So yeah, maybe 10% would be similar, which is very little. There's a question from Gretesh regarding the math. The math behind exit strategies. Well, there's not much math, frankly. I mean, I'm not sure which math you have in mind, but if it is about the exit itself, it's all about maximizing your money. If that is what you want to do, some people want an exit that will meet other criteria. But in general, it's about who is going to pay the higher price. Now, we will discuss who can pay the higher price, of course. But if it is about complicated adjustments to a cap table at the time of the exit, no, I don't think that's very relevant. We are not going to discuss that. The math that we will use will be, of course, in the term sheets. So there will be a little bit of basic math there, although it can become complex when there are many, many constraints to consider together. And the more advanced math is in the valuation. But to give you an example, I introduce you to the concept of valuing a startup with real options using Black-Scholes formula. I do not expect you to do it yourself. I do not even expect you to learn it. I just show it to you. And if it happens that someone in this class is interested in it, well, they know it exists and they know where to go to learn more. But that's not even something that most people would use. It will be for biotechs or very specific discovery situations. So I do not plan to transform you into advanced bankers able to do complex valuation. But if you can do it, if you will get a chance to develop those skills, if you want to develop them from scratch, you are welcome. But that would be additional time, okay, on top of the hours that we suggest you put on a weekly basis. So if you want to develop really strong valuation skills, that can be, I don't know, 100 hours if you want to invest on the side over whatever time you want. I hope that clarifies the question.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to everyone in here today asking all these wonderful questions. It's going to be very helpful, especially for those who are watching at home. Again, I'm going to give my little spiel again, give you guys a second to think a little bit about questions that they pop in or rise. Ankit, if you can, for me, drop the link in the chat one more time for those. We lost that kind of with all the good chatter. You can click on the link now if you're ready to apply to class. I know someone asked about the student enhancement package. So Avi, I recommend calling the bursar's office and asking them directly there. They'll have better information on how to get that underway for you. For those of you at home, again, you can click on the link when you get the PowerPoint. You have the access to the slide deck. And if you have any questions, you should be able to reply right back to the email as well. So please don't hesitate to ask our question if anything comes to mind. Please reach out. We want to answer your questions and give you all the information you need in order to get started in the class. Okay, great. And Professor, I think hopefully you can see that Geetish just said understood. Thank you for clarifying. Exciting to join the program soon. So while folks are still thinking of some more questions, any thoughts for you? Anything that's coming to mind, Professor Ken, that you'd like to share? Words of wisdom, things to think about as folks are preparing to enroll? Anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share to the larger audience at home about the program or your experience teaching it?
Sorry, was that the question?
Yes, I was saying, would you like to, can you, as we're just closing out here, tell a little bit about the
Yeah,
program,
no,
your
that's right. I
experience
just
with the program?
no, I
Words of
will
wisdom
just
to folks.
highlight the two main points. The first one is when it comes to very technical skills like valuation, this is a side investment. Okay, nobody can teach you valuation in a few hours to the point where you would be really versatile and able to deal with any situation. But at least you will know the basics, the alternatives, and you will be able to talk to someone who is in charge of it. So just be very clear about that. Second thing is repeating what I said about the opportunity to work with others. So if you can, if your agenda allows that, try to work with 1, 2, 3 other participants, preparing your cases, etc. We really encourage it. It's not about having others doing the work for you, of course not. It's about learning from each other. It will take you further. And that's true for other interactions, interacting in the live classes, if you can attend them, which we encourage, interacting online also asynchronously in asking questions or helping others to answer them. So all that is part of the experience and continues after the class in the community that we are building.
Excellent. Thank you again, Professor, for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. And to all of you out there, thank you for all your questions and keeping the chats going and the energy in the room. It's going to reflect the energy in your classroom as well. I second Professor Caton's suggestion to work together and stick together. The networking part is just invaluable to being able to be together and joining those alumni groups afterwards as just a going to continue to pay dividends to you for joining the program. So we really appreciate you sharing all your thoughts and your personal experiences with teaching the program. Again, the link's in the chat. Take a moment to grab that up. I think we have one more question coming in. Yes, start date still July 31st.
No, May.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm sorry, May 31st. Yeah, sorry, May 31st. Thank you, Professor Kitten. So please continue, click on that button. You'll get some more information there. You'll look out for the email coming to you. Again, we thank you all for being here. Thank you to the program support team for helping keep this webinar together. And once again, thank you, Professor Kitten, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. To all of you, we wish you a good morning,
It's a pleasure.
good afternoon, and good evening. And we'll see you in class.
Wishing you all an excellent day.
Okay, thank you. Bye all.